Good morning, good afternoon, good night, whatever time of day it is for you. My name is Justin, KewlImp, and a whole host of names I've... And I'm a floating head today again. I like being a floating head, just sitting here in the void of space with some type of reflection behind me, which you're going to ignore because you just see a floating head. I enjoy that type of thing around here. Today we're doing something a little bit different when we make our builds. Now, normally I'm one of those people, I'm a firm, get a capstone. Always get a capstone. However, thanks to Game Eat Discuss, or it's Gamer Eat Discuss, you know, something like that, off of YouTube, I'm going to make a build for each one of these using no capstones and all 3 trees. And every tree on every character has at least 10 points spent into it. But I want to wait for the explanation for a couple minutes just to see if everyone's going to get in here this morning like we've done previously. Because I know most mornings I do this stream, there's people in here wanting to discuss builds, and I love discussing builds. One of the greater things about it, being a theory crafter in general, which is something I've done for other games, you really do have this amazing thing to be able to explore. This right here, the skill trees that they put up, the interactive skill trees, absolutely amazing. Just a couple more minutes, make sure everyone's here who's going to be here this morning. And of course, being ahead, I do have some problems. Sinus infections are killer. And don't get me started in about allergy season. No, yeah, I'm fine without that. Good morning, little cans. Ooh, I want to be like you. All right. We've been streaming for about 3 minutes. We're going to go ahead and jump in on this. So our first build is for Amara. Now we're going to begin, and we're going to be using Astral Projection. And I like this build for one big reason. It's based around elemental damage, pumping it out, and manipulating it, making it go further. But first, we want to get Violent Tapestry, of course, for the elemental chance, for the rush stacks. And the rush stacks is to help us do more damage overall whenever we use our action skill. Yeah, it's on a 30-second cooldown, but we're looking to do more damage than that because we're going to use Stillness of Mind to Phase Grasp. And whenever an enemy's phase grasped, or just grasped, the weapon is instantly reloaded. So that gives us a lot of advantage to just nuke something to death or get a large crowd together. And the reason we take this is that way we can phase grasp things. This is going to send out astral projections, damaging everything in her path. Or we could even use this one here, which is a 28-second, but sends out the pinging cooldown to hit things. I don't like Phase Grasp in this case, and I don't like Fist of the Elements. I just don't see it doing as much. Now, Line of Fist might be able to do something good with the other skills because we're going to be Phase Grasping, we're going to be popping them up in the air, so that might work, but For me, we're going with this, sending out the increased astral projection. Again, Deliverance might work. It all depends on how you want to do it. So you do have creativity in there. Now again, do Harmons to help build up rush stacks. We always take Restless whenever we get a chance to, because 25% reduction on your cooldown rate for 30 seconds, I think, is something like 3, 4, 5 seconds. Would be 10. Yeah, it's like 5 to 7 seconds. Ascendance is something I would suggest everyone take. And with Stillness of Mind, it increases that, keeps them in the air just a little bit longer after we've hit them. But that's on top of the 6 seconds we already have. So we're holding them up for almost 7 seconds. I had one extra, so I put it down here in From Rest. But I'm going to go over that here in a moment. Next, we move over to Fist of the Elements. And we're going to kind of go into an elemental build as well. We're going to take Infusion. Or you could take Anima. I went with Infusion in this case because we wanted to get a lot of damage, a lot of punch out of our action skill. And yes, that was on purpose. It's not me just being stupid and accidentally making a pun. I did it on purpose. Then we're going to take Tempest, because we want to increase that shock damage. And we do want to take Wildfire so we can spread it around. Dread, because we're grasping them, we want to be able to do more damage to them. We want that reload. We want to be able to hurt them more. And for our Brawl tree, we're taking the stuff in Brawl purely for survival. We're going to make Amara a little hard to kill. Not big hard, a little hard. So we've got max health. We've got, after constantly regenerating missing health after using an action skill, it's doubled. And then Helping Hands, of course, which reduces damage taken during a few seconds after her action skill, which is going to be 15 seconds, 40% reduction. Now, if you want to move this around a little bit, maybe take the 5 points here and put it over into Arm Steel. Move some points over to Anima, for instance. Definitely do that. You could even put a couple into Anima and 3 into the Nova here, Catharsis. And that would be a good way of spreading around some of those points, because then you can have a much wider AoE build included in this already. And we have seen some of the gameplay where you see that little pop-off every 8 seconds. And this is a Tricolor, no Capstone, Amara. If I were to play with no Capstones, this is how I would do it. Now, the funny thing is, we know for a fact that there are options out there that will tap into our Capstones without needing to opt into that entire tree. And that's kind of the reason I think that Game Eat Disgust did a build like this. I don't think they made this build. I think they did a Moe's build. And that's because you can get these Capstones without having to go all the way down, without having to invest 27 points. Or 25 points. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Yeah. 26 points. Now we move on to Flak. And Flak, I didn't fully finish him, to be honest. And the reason why is I couldn't figure out how I wanted to go with this. So, my preferred method is I like the Gamma Burst over the other options. I'll apologize to anyone out there who thinks I'm an idiot for that. I don't apologize for it. So, beginning with Gamma Burst, we're going to end up picking Atomic Aroma, Empathic Rage. Now, this is so we do more damage. We're going to take 3 points in Persistent Hunter, which is more damage. We're going to do 2 dots. And the top row doesn't really matter here. If you want your pet to do more critical damage, take that. If you just want them to do more damage overall, take ferocity. Now we're going to get the health regeneration, who rescued Hugh. And again, here's another one where we can put it whatever. I put it into he bites, but you could also put it into frenzy. Frenzy, I think, might be better in retrospect here, because I make these builds before I get onto stream. And then finally, Psycho Head on a Stick. I love this skill. Pet increased damage, pet increased movement speed. I think it's a must. This is our durability tree. And as you can see, we know exactly what we did. We picked up Self-Repairing System. We picked up the Hunter skill, Furious Attack, so we can go ahead and get additional handling, additional gun damage per stack. I had 1 dot left over, so I ended up coming back to this tree and putting it into all my BFFs. And, of course, Lick the Wounds. Now we get to our damage tree, where we're going to do the majority of our damage from. I began out with 3 dots and to leave no trace. And that's because watching some of the footage, I think this is going to be a lot stronger than originally thought. Then 2 dots into Second Intention. You could have gone with Interplanetary Stalker if that's what you prefer, but this is the way I would have done it. Then 3 dots into Head Count. This is a great ability, and I want to say that even though it's a 30% to only reduce 2 seconds, every second reduced is good. Ambush Predator, of course. No enemies nearby. Critical damage goes up. You could have also taken this and put it into Hunter's Eye. Hunter's Eye would have helped out a bit more. So we're going to move down to Two Fang. Again, I've said this before. If you jump into the Hunter tree, pick up Two Fang. Always pick up Two Fang. Don't care who you are right there. Pick up the Two Fang. Let's take some of the... let's take the heard about. Not sure if it's actually in the game because it would be fucking incredible if it was. The potential of a triple anarchy. To fire an additional projectile at that attack speed, that fire rate is going to be so important. Because now we're doing so much more. And we're just talking about an extra pellet. But the last double anarchy I had, I could clear the magazine in about 3 seconds. Because it had a 15 fire rate. So that was 28 rounds, 3 seconds. Let's use that as an example. 28 rounds in 3 seconds. Let me do the calculator here. 28 divided by 3. That's nearly 9.5 shots, put quotations there, shots per second. Or, no, yeah, 9 shots per second. So we got 9 shots per second. That has statistically, emphasis on the statistically, to fire out 2 extra bullets to go along with it. So over that 3 seconds, you have 6 extra pellets going out, and that 6 extra pellets could be valuable. I think it's worth it. Always, I will always suggest dropping the 5 dots in there. Now, most dangerous game, of course, along with big game. Now, these two, I think, go together really well. But the extra damage, the extra critical hit, the extra handling, all fucking worth it. And then, I like Galactic Shadow. Anything that reduces the amount of times that you can get hit, absolutely down with. Which moves us over to Moe's. Moe's is going to be an interesting one for me. I didn't pick out the hardpoint weapons yet. And that's because I couldn't figure out what I really wanted with this. More than likely what I would end up doing is... because there's a lot of fire here... I'd probably end up doing this. Corrosive on one side and the Flaming Rush on the other. It all depends on how you go into building it. You could even do minigun one side with the to let off some steam and something like that. So the hardpoint weapons here I don't think matter as much because you do have the variety. You even have up to target softening up here. And target softening I think is amazing. Because we didn't spec into Specialist Bear, stop it. Because we didn't spec into Specialist Bear, we could even do 2 different weapons altogether. It all depends on what you want to do. Now this build is going to go mostly around fire. So if you like fire, this might be the build for you. We're going to begin with Cloud of Lead, of course. Every 4 shots does not consume damage and bonus incendiary damage. I picked this up because I needed one more dot everywhere. And I don't think the demand turret's all that great. I don't think Daka Bear is worth it. Taking a look at it, all it does is encourage people to hop into that turret. And the turret doesn't do as much damage as your guns do. Like if you're low on ammo, yeah, maybe sure. But no, it doesn't work for me. Might work for you, it doesn't work for me. But if you don't want to do match set, you can also do Scrappy, or you can put it into Daka Bear. But we're going to take Redistribution. We are going to take Stoke the Embers, and that's because we're doing incendiary damage. Like I mentioned earlier, always take Russian Offensive if we're coming down this tree. I don't care who you are, you have to get that. And then, of course, Scorching RPMs. We want to increase that rate of fire. And, oh my god, look at that. What a surprise. We're picking up Fire in the Skagden. We're also going to increase our fuel and our armor with Stainless Steel Bear and Deadlines. I picked up the Torque Cross promotion. I don't remember why. I think I may have had an extra point over here in this build, so I just picked it up. Now, something you may notice. I would probably put that into Grizzled instead, to be honest. I wanted to pick up Auto Bear. You notice I have a lot of the midway points, and that's because that's something I really wanted to do with these. I need to make not a phone call, but a text message later on. And then we get over here to our final tree. Of course, Selfless Vengeance. Now, I did want to take this. I did want Security Bear. And that's just for a little bit extra protection while you're in the mech. And some people are saying the mech's not going to be that great. I think it is. It's an oh shit button for one thing. And then I took Drowning in Brass. Even though this is going to reduce our fire rate, the gun damage per stack is going to be why we want it. Vladoff Ingenuity, this is to reduce the shields, to reduce the damage we take off of our shields. Followed by Experimental Mutations, of course, because we've done all this other incendiary damage, we want this as well. And then Can of Whoop Ass. And this is to help out our teammates when we're actually playing. Now, one thing that we could do is it might work out better to go with the Railgun here. Railgun and the Flamethrower, yeah. Because we're doing all this fire damage. So, some people don't like the Railgun at the moment. And I can feel you. I can feel you why you don't like it. It's not currently with its fire rate. It doesn't do as much damage as other things do. And because of that, we don't see it just spitting out damage left and right and just burning things down. So it's a really interesting thing to take a good look at and to wonder what's going on. I think this right here, this build, it could be pretty good. Especially if we get something, because with this, we actually don't need a capstone. I emphasize the word need here. But let's say we get a legendary class mod. And that legendary class mod gives us both Forge and some for the road. We've taken care of our ammo situation. So it's all going to depend on what we get, how we receive it, and so forth. And now finally for our last character, who I forgot to do something for as well. And I apologize about this. Alright. So we're going to begin on the first skill where we're not picking it up. Again, you'll notice that some points are kind of oddly distributed, and that's because I had a few extra left over that I couldn't figure out a good place to put into without picking up the capstone. So first off, and again, all of these trees have at least 10 points in them. I'm not. This is the this interactive skill tree off of the website. That right there. And down in the first paragraph, it gives you a link to each one of their builds. And I'm a theory crafter. You should have seen how many videos I have on Kingdom Hearts 3 when that game came out. But both of these games I love to death. I love both games, and I've been doing a lot of theory crafting for this. So with Zane, we're going to begin with the skill tree that I'm not picking up. Not the action skill, at least. Oh, and today we're doing tricolor builds with no capstones. Previous days, I've done team builds. I've done solo builds. I've done monocolor builds. I've done specialty builds. Stupid builds. Needless to say, I've done a lot of builds. But for this Zane, we're going to pick up Adrenaline. That way we reduce our action skill. Blah, 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 blah. Capstones are the bottom abilities. The big ones at the end. It's actually a reference to pyramid building. Because the very top stone that some of them don't have is called a capstone. So we're going to pick up Adrenaline, which increases our action cooldown rate. This is based on the amount of shield. The fuller it is, the more we have. And of course, we're going to increase our maximum shields. We're going to increase our damage resistance and our health regeneration. Now, take a look at this. This is max health regen, not missing health regen. Which is why I picked up the skill over Brain Freeze. And then, because we had the points, leftover points, we're going to convert non-elemental damage, or resist damage to non-elemental damage after a kill. Then we're going to get to our clone. And yes, this is a cloning drone. I know, yeah. So many people make cloning drones. We're going to begin by getting 5 points in synchronicity. Increase gun damage per active skill. We want to have most skills up as long as possible. We're going to increase our magazine size for our clone and for ourselves. And this is kind of a grenade build. Okay, it's a bit of a grenade build. Chance to throw a grenade when it's summoned. If it's killed, it drops a grenade. Duct tape mod. Chance to fire a grenade with your first shot. Whenever you swap places with your clone, shields start to recharge. And with that, we are going to take shields restored with short infrared. So whenever your clone takes a damage, your shield is automatically increased by that amount. It is restored by that amount. Now, short infrared is actually a German word meaning the taking pleasure out of someone else's misery. Not necessarily pain, but misery or misfortune. And we're going to take Doppelbanger. Because, and I'm curious about this now that I think about it. If we blow it up, that means it's taking damage. That should, in my mind, in this floating head, that should mean that you get all the health it has back as a part of your shields till max. Which could be a very good oh shit button if you ask me. Okay. I had an extra point left over, so we picked up Supersonic Man. We have Old You, which allows us to blow up our Digiclone in order to gain a second wind at full health. Oh, and look, it blew up, so we get our shields back. And grenade regeneration. And we also picked up Boom Enhance. Now, we pick up Boom Enhance because it has more health. Because it's taking more damage, we should get more back. So I think with Zane, a turtle shield would be excellent. As long as it doesn't fuck with your movement speed. A turtle shield would be excellent for Zane with this type of build. And now it's over to the drone. We're going to pick up 5 points in violent speed. And it's because I think the movement speed will actually help him get around a little bit. Even if we pick up something like a turtle shield that has a movement speed issue, we can compensate for it. Of course, because this is a grenade build, we're going to let Sentinel drop grenades on people. Which prompts the question again, and I know I've asked this before on stream. If the drone drops, let's say, a bonus package. I'm not going to say a skyrocket because just dropping it down I don't think would have much of an effect. It would just... But if we drop in a bonus package, does Sentinel's grenade do damage to us? It's a thought I have. I don't think it's been explored. And then 4 points into Salvation because I like Lifesteal. Death follows close, is that way we can get our extra kill skill bonuses off of this. And I like it better. Static Field I don't think works out better. I think the Winter's Drone and Bad Dose would be a better combination to go along with the Sentinel and the rest of the build. If I was doing something that required me to have a lot of shields, yeah, I would go with Static Field. But I don't think it's going to be as effective as Winter's Drone because all the primary weapons are now cryo. And even though we don't have Ice Cream Face here, Brain Freeze, we're still going to be able to do a lot of damage to slow them down, and eventually freeze them. So those are my 4 Tricolor. Tricolor, no capstone builds. Do you guys have any questions this morning? I know I've been talking for about half an hour straight. And I'll say this, I really like building characters. I cannot wait for my chance to sit and do it in game. But I can say this, based off of what I'm seeing right now, I think a lot of these builds won't require capstones, and because we know some of the class mods, and maybe they haven't said it, but maybe, just maybe, the artifacts might even have it. The relics might even have it, where it increases our adds on to our capstones as well. There might even be an artifact, a relic, or a class mod that adds 2 points to a capstone. And I'm imagining some of these characters, like let's take Megavore for instance. It starts out at a base 20. If we add an extra point into that, it might be 40. Another point is where I would see it start to reduce. Or let's be more realistic. Let's say we have something that doubles Megavore. First one, we have 20. Level 2, we would have 30. Level 3, we would have level 35%. And this is imagination numbers, people. I do not know this for sure. Ooh. No. Not now. So, with using imagination numbers, 35% chance to crit on hit, no matter where you hit. I like the idea of Megavore, but when I was first making my builds, I wanted to be in this tree. This is what make Flak... The pets are what make Flak unique to me. And because it's what makes Flak unique to me, that's where I really wanted to be. However, since from what we've heard, you can't dominate the badasses, this might not be the tree for me. So I think taking a look at this all, we're going to have a really good time making characters. I think we're not going to be stuck into certain character builds. Because if we take a look at some of the builds for, let's say, in-game Gauge. There's only one build that works for in-game Gauge. And that is Anarchy. And you have to have a damn good shotgun to go along with it. And even then, she sometimes has a problem mobbing right if you aren't built exactly correctly. So this is something I think is really interesting because I do see a lot of builds in these. The only person that I have difficulty with really is Amara, because I only see 2 builds with her. And I know some people think that's me being an idiot, but no, I only see, like, honestly, 2 builds with her. Elementalist and Brawler. Because this is a nothing skill. Because she doesn't have a ton of action skill cooldown. Because she only has the one here, the cooldown rate by 25%. We don't even have a diminishing returns for her for another skill that reduces cooldown even more. So this right here is nothing. So every 15 seconds we can fire off a phase cast, a reverberation, but it still comes down to the same thing. We could invest down here and go down to Ties That Bind, which has an 18-second cooldown. So that would reduce it down to, let me see, divided by 25. Because my brain isn't working this morning. 18 divided by 4. 4.5 reduces by 4.5 seconds. So that's 11.5 seconds. Firing it off every 5 seconds. Every 6 seconds. That could work really well. If you're mobbing. If you're not mobbing, that's not going to work. And the grasp immune damage isn't really worth it. With Face Slam. By the way, this is not what it looks like. That is not that skill. Sorry. That looks like a Kamehameha wave. This is a minor grievance. That looks like a Kamehameha wave. What it looks like is she is over top of you, like a fucking spider about to drop in, and she's just nuking the ground before you like a drilling laser. Meh. But yeah, there's some of these that I think works. I think Phase Cast works best with the avatar. Because you can get those rush stacks back up, and once you have the rush stacks back up, you can go back in for another one. With Flak, although crit is the most popular build, I don't think it's the only one there. I think we're going to see some adjustments made to pet damage. I think we're going to see some adjustments made to Iron Bear's damage, Iron Bear's fuel. So in this case, I do see that we have a few things that are probably not going to remain the same. We are going to see some changes. We are going to see some upgrades to the characters. And that's what the public testing was, I think, mostly about, is they were testing to see how people reacted to it. But like with Moe's, you have an entire build that you can go with that is a health regen build. You could go. So let's go over here. Now, one of the builds I like to do that I think is going to be great is a health regeneration build. And this is all about helping people increase their life expectancy. And one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Health regeneration. Where is it? In this case, we're gonna nope. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, I like Psycho Head on a Stick. Since we're invested that far down the tree. Again, I like that skill. No, let's take the deck though. And then we're going to go ahead, take Ferocity, Mutated Defenses. 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, this build is a healing build. Healing build. And there's two ways it can be done. It can be done like this. And this is the base. And the key to this is this right here. We take Gamma Burst, we take Healing Burst. You have a dedicated healer. With all my BFFs, you are healing something, they are passively healing something like 6 health a second. The best starting build, Zane? Good question. You could also invest, real quick, you can also invest in 8 points into this tree, or well, 10 points into this tree, and I'm putting them, actually touching my monitor, and using Falconer's Feast instead. That way you can be chronically doing a lot of healing passively, which increases through my BFFs. But for Zane, a good starting build, I am biased here, because I think the shield's being underutilized. A good starting build for Zane, and we're looking at, let's say, level 15, right? Because I'm biased, this puts us at level 13, so just 2 more points somewhere. This right here. Oops, went the wrong way. Shield and the drone. I do, like I say, I have a bias. Clone and drone is a very popular build. However, I think that shield is going to pull its weight, and people just don't see it yet. So, we take 5 points into adrenaline. Action skill is reduced up to 35 per second, depending on how full our shields are. We take the charge relay for the reload speed and the movement speed, and that sticks around until 8 seconds after moving away from the barrier. So, an ally touches the shield, touches your barrier, they have increased reload speed, increased movement speed. They can move away from it, come back, touch the shield again, touch your barrier again, and then go back away. They can do diving attacks into people. For this, well, I'm 2 points up, actually, because you get to your action skills at level 2, so technically right here. I like the drone. I honestly like the drone here. So, Sentinel, I like the violent speed. Make him faster. Faster is harder to hit. Although Violent Momentum is a pretty good skill, he doesn't really get any additional movement speed until later. So you buy into the movement speed here, and then you pick up the point for drone delivery, because we have no grenades. And having no grenades, we want to make sure that we can rain down some death on them. Like a good Bouncing Betty or a good Merv would be very good off of drone delivery. And then Cryo to slow them down and maybe even freeze them. After that, like this is level 15. Yeah, this should be level 15. It's level 14 or level 15. Moving on, you can build it out however else you want to. I like the barrier tree here. I like Undercover, because this Capstone is absolutely amazing and people don't see it yet. They're like, yeah, but I get more damage out of Clone and Drone. It's good, but I get more damage out of Clone and Drone. I mean, you haven't even seen anybody, like, not even myself. Because he has the 2 action skills you can use. Not even me, the guy who complains about, like, certain types of builds. I haven't even built a single action skill Zane yet. Because if you have the action skill, you should be using it. That's what makes Zane unique. But this is how I would start out. This is how I'm going to start out my Zane. I'm going to get the reduction. I'm going to get a drone. And then I'm just going to lay waste to everyone I can as quickly as I can. Now, first, after that though, let's say we're building up through it. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take 5 points in that. And that's because I like the health regeneration. And I'm going to pick up all around her. Now this puts us at level 32 points left. That's level 18 now. So at this point, we're at level 18. Level 19, confidence, competence. We're going to go ahead and pick that up. Then we come back over to our drone. And because I like lifesteal, we're going to take 4 points in lifesteal first. Then we're going to take Death Follows Closely. As well as picking up Bad Dose. As soon as Bad Dose becomes available, we want to pick it up. Now this puts us at level 24. You'll notice we have 2 midway points on our action skills. And from here, we begin just to invest in the shield tree until we've completed it. So next 3 levels, damage resistance, 1 point in maximum capacity. Since I'm not doing a cold build, I don't need to worry about this as much. But we take a point into really expensive jacket because elemental statuses being reduced means less likelihood of us being down to a dot and no enemies being nearby. We take a point in futility belt. And then we come back up here. We drop 2 points into hardy stock. Then we take the point in best served cold. Now, because we are not doing a frozen build, we're not doing an old man cold or an ice cold Zane, crack open a Zane one, whatever you want to call the build, we don't really have to worry about calm collected or calm cool collected. Now, this is where your preference is really going to come into play. If you intend to use a lot of frozen weapons, first off, we're going to keep this on. But if you're intending on using a lot of frozen weapons, that's where we're going to pick up Calm Cool Collected, we're going to pick up Refreshment. But since I like to do things my way, I'm going to come up here. I'm going to get ready for action. And then I'm going to pick up the Capstone for Undercover. That's how we're at level 39. We jump back over here. We see there's not a lot here for us, to be honest. We take a look at this tree. Okay. We have a couple things we can use. But since we're already invested, do you just want to make a cold build? Let's just make a cold build. We're going to drop 3 points into here, or 5 points into there, 4 points into there, pick up the Calm Cool Collected, and we're going to take the lifesteal. Now, we're doing a lot of frozen damage. But that's one of those things where it's going to depend on where you want to be at this point. Because at this point, we have our Capstone, we have our basis to our build. Now, what you could also do is drop in a little bit of movement speed on this as well. So instead of taking the Winter's Drone, or well, we'd still take Winter's Drone, sorry. We can go down this tree, or we could even go down this tree, which action skill reduced duration by how many skills activated. You could, from there, pick up 5 points in duct tape mod. And then increase gun damage. Or, let's say you don't want duct tape mod. Let's say that doesn't interest you. Bam, 5 points there. Now, two things that matter is when one or more of his skills are damaged out, you do 20 extra damage per activation. In order, I'm going to say crit flak, clone and drone Zane. I'm going to say Blitz Amara, so using this skill, and then infinite ammo Mose. And if you haven't seen the crit builds for him, they're dirty. In fact, my build for this character is in general, and I'm going to put that out there. This is my general build for the character. It's going to look a little something like this. Nope, I wanted Veracity first. Then we're going to take Psycho Head on a stick. Bam, 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 bam. This is my personal build. And then we're going to take, again, I'm going to have to figure out in gameplay which one of those I want. But I'm going to take that. And then just spreading around points. Action skill cooldown. No, because I like reload speed. I can't help myself. Twin Fang. Interplanetary Hunter. We're going to come up here. Bam, bam. And this is my build in general. And until we actually get the game... Oh, that's right. Pick you up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1. And then, unfortunately, I don't have enough points to get down to here. But... 1, 2, 3 there. And then, depending on how you want to do it, you have 3 points left over. You can place anywhere you want to. 1 point there. 1 point there because I like mutated defenses. And we can take 1 point pet bonus. If you wanted to, you could invest a little bit more into this tree so you can get at least 1 dot in all my BFFs, all my BFFs. That way your passive health regeneration or anytime you do healing, you get it back. So even nades tossed out, you end up healing. Now, my build actually revolves around a combination of the abilities. What you do is you use the Iridian Skag to suck everybody into a location. You Gamma Burst on top of him where he's already at. He's pumping out radiation damage as a passive because of his aura. And for at least 15 more seconds, we have some more duration on his increased damage and his increased aura. So we're still just damage out, damage out, damage out, damage out. The reason we go down this tree is because we've seen in the K6 and the Jolts videos that Megavore will proc the Torg grenades, the Torque shotguns, to actually crit. This is before we explode them. So when they land on a target, they can crit. So that can possibly put more ammunition back into your magazine. And the more of those grenades that goes off simultaneously, the more damage you do. It's actually quite amazing. The first phase of the Skaga survival on Jolt's video melted. Like it became available. It did its roar. It did the roar. He reloaded. That bitch was dead. So, there is very well combinations here that work. So, All I ended up doing is instead of taking Dominance, I took Megavore instead. But there's a lot of combinations here. There's a lot of dirty stuff here. And it is very well possible that in Mayhem mode, you have to be that dirty. Because Mayhem mode looks amazing. Now, Clone and Drone Zane, I don't think it's going to be the most popular. I'm not sure if it's going to be the strongest version of it, though. I think Old Man Cold will be a better build. And I said it, then I kind of took it back. So here's the reason why. First off, although we're going to take Cool Collected, we're not going to actually be invested into the shield tree for its abilities, for its action skill. So Frost Nova. So this gives us all of our things that we need for there. This is a Clone and Drone build, but it's centered around the cold aspect. So down to here, we take that. And the second part of this, I've seen people dispute over what's going to be better. But you can go with that. And then, for our drone, the top row doesn't really matter for this type of build. So you can go with 5 points there. But you want this. You want the Cryo Sentinel. You want a Cryo Grenade for your Sentinel. And then after this, you kind of have your build open to you. Because you picked up every single cold ability you can. And because of that, what's going to happen, the way that it works, the way that this build works, is you get into a crowd of people. You use let's say, a Singularity Cryo Grenade. You use a Singularity Cryo Grenade. You suck everybody into 1 point. You pop your clone. You run over into the center of that group of people. You switch places. You run back over because you kind of, depending on where the clone spawns at, you might not have a good place where you might have to maneuver it. And then all you do is every chance you can to switch places, you're doing Novas. Now, the way that it works is that either your shields, your health, or your action skill cooldown is regenerated. So you can keep Frost Novaing everything. Whenever you kill somebody, you get back you begin recovering health. Whenever you hit a frozen enemy with your gun, because you're not just going to be switching back and forth, you're going to be shooting. You get 24% lifesteal. Enemies are freezing faster. I think this build will be the most powerful Zane. And it's going to be very gear dependent. For Moze honestly doesn't have any standout builds to me. You could go with the build I just had here, the fire build, but I don't think that's going to be the one that ends up being the strongest one. I think infinite ammo Moze will be. So 5 points here. Yes, you want Vladoff engine, the match set. This is going to be another character that actually has actual gear requirements to it. Now, the two weapons don't matter as much. Personally, I think this will be a great build for the weapons. I don't think you need the explosive tipped rounds. I think this right here, where you can, the higher the heat, the more damage being done, is going to be amazing. And you just haven't seen many people explore it. And now once we have that, we can start investing in staying in bear longer. Now because, no, we did take it in this case. And right now you have 7 points that are left over for this build. It's all going to depend on where you want it to be. Go with increased gun damage, security bear, and let's go ahead and put some shock resistance on this bitch. And now you see this is what I think is going to be the best build for her. I think this will be the one that can pump out the most damage. You're going to be an Iron Bear for a long time. You're going to be keeping your heat up on your miniguns. You're not going to let them overheat. So that means tap, 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 tap. You're not just going to be burnout. Burnout. Don't do that. And Amara, the Blitz build, I see being the most powerful. And that's because of how much damage you can... Yeah. And that's because of how much damage you can do with it. So, one of the biggest things that you need about this is your action skill cooldowns. And you're seeing me actually build this kind of how you would want to build it. That's right. Come back over here. Then what we're going to do is we're going to... Which one is this? Samasasara. Health regeneration. Max health, health reduction. Avenging Angel. Energy orb. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now the action skill here matters. Because you have two ways you can do it. So, if you take away a point from here, you don't get the increased damage. Let me see. We have 15, 20, 25, 26. So you have an extra point if you don't want to spend in this tree. If you don't want do unto others, fine. Take it out. But you want one of two ways. Either you want to use... personally, I suggest in this build using Line of Fist or using just the base damage. And that's because Line of Fist would be nice. Because they erupt from the ground, they might pop them up. But I don't like this skill. It's an aimed skill. You have to float above people. And if you're shooting a lot of fast-moving targets, it's not going to stay on them. So either you want to go with Phase Slam or you want to go with Fracture. And then... Wait, is this the right one? Yeah. Then you want to pick up Glamour. So, turning some of the enemies against themselves, right there. It increases our action skill cooldown by 20%, so that puts us at, let's see, what's... Uh, 42 seconds. It's probably one of the longest action skill cooldowns you'll get for her. But you have enemies fighting for you. And then, meanwhile, you're running around, you're blitzing people. And they're helping out. Or if you don't think that that's a good way to go, I don't like Revelation as much. But you could, theoretically here, rush stacks, and then Stillness of Mind. So you slam down, and everybody you slam down on is phase locked. Or if you want to use Fracture, everyone in that row of weapons, that row of fist, phase locked. So, the options here are quite open for Amara. But I think this will end up being her best build. And that's just because she is built for melee. And there are weapons that go based off of her melee damage. Who was it? I think it was Dantix or Lazy Data. They're YouTubers, by the way. They ended up getting a shotgun that, for what it did is it took the characters, let's emphasize this, took the characters' melee damage or melee percentage and added it on top of the damage that the shotgun did. And it murdered because it was so strong. It was dirty. And that was a level 50 build that they were playing with. So, there's a lot of options out there, and I think a lot of these builds are just going to be dirty. For people who haven't said anything, I see Annabelle, Bob Sang, Clusterfluck, Dynamite, Kato, Konoha, Mordecai, Rape, V&K, Virgo Pros, Windstock, and Lizard King. Welcome all you guys to the stream. I'm hoping you're enjoying my commentary today. I do have a tendency to get off on rants, so if you want to see something specific, let me know, and I'll be glad to go over that specific build. If you have a build, share it with the chat. However, if you link anything other than a character build, you just might get banned. Well, timed out. I don't like the ban. But for you, Jonah, who I don't think is here any longer, these are the builds I see as being the stronger builds. Flak is going to be all about that damage. All about the Megavore for the strongest build. So, does anybody have any questions, concerns, thoughts, rantings, ravings? Although there's something to be said while I wait for you guys to respond, if any of you will. Something to be, the websites that they had to do is enumerated. And it's weird to see it. To see it like it is in a link. Because the next thing I'm going to do today, if there's no other comments, concerns, thoughts, or anything like that, I'm going to load up Borderlands 2, and I'm going to hunt down the cult. And by that, I'm going to try and find all the Cult of the Vault symbols. Starting with the new character. I just did Axton for my border quest, and I did not enjoy playing Axton. For people who like Axton, more power to you, just not my character. Yesterday, I ended up spending a lot of time playing WoW Classic. On Saturday, I ended up playing Borderlands 2, trying to hunt down a sham, which I finally got an 85% one. But I'm like, Jesus, it took so long to get this shield. And this shield doesn't even seem to be doing it. All right. I'm going to take the silence as no questions, concerns, anything like that. So we're